All right, can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you. How are you doing, Tim?
What's going on?
Good to see you, my friend, or hear you rather. We do have a few live listeners on right now, and this is being recorded, so I think we can get started.
Definitely.
Uh, Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for our second Survivor Aorta chat for the day. My name is Adam Ahmed. I'm a fourth-year student at CUNY Medical School, and tonight we're very excited to host Mr. Tim O'Reilly on the line with us. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, Tim is currently 37 years old. He dissected in 2020 and was treated at Maimonides Hospital for a type A repair along with an aortic valve replacement. He works at the Brooklyn Supreme Court and has worked there for 17 years. On his free time, he's an avid sports fan and also enjoys reading everything from sci-fi, fantasy, to history, and listening to music. How are you doing today, Tim? Thanks for coming on live, my friend.
I'm doing good. It's a good way to spend my Friday.
Yes, sir. All right, so could you start us off, tell us a little bit about yourself, the story of your dissection, and sort of what led you here to this point?
Well, you got all the background to everybody out there. That's all that really needs to be known about me. As I said, I dissected in 2020, which was just a weird time in the world and the country. It was right in the summer, like not about a week actually, less than a week after my 33rd birthday. I had just started going back to work after about 3 months, on hiatus for COVID stuff. And like one of the days I was there, I was just feeling off. Like my heart was feeling like it was doing like backflips in my chest. I mean, I had had a bit of a history with arrhythmia, but nothing that would ever show up on, it was so rare that it was nothing that ever would show up on like an EKG or something like that. So the doctor really told me not to worry about it. So I went home and then it started feeling worse, and suddenly my heart rate started to like spike. Just sitting on my couch, it was spiked up to about 150 to 160 beats per minute. So, like, contrary to the usual dissection story of like a stabbing pain of some kind, I really didn't feel any pain. But did have the wherewithal to get myself an Uber to, as you said, Maimonides Medical Center. And thankfully, I told them, heart stuff, and they didn't pass it off as anxiety. They got me in a seat. They got me in an echo, or they did an echo, and they did see a fairly sizable aneurysm. I think it was somewhere in the high fives. Um, and they got me into a CT, and they saw that it was just beginning its stages of splitting. So I don't know if maybe that's why I didn't feel any pain, because it hadn't gotten big enough the tear wasn't big enough to cause pain, or whatever the reason. And they called one of your recent guests, the esteemed. I should start that by saying the esteemed Dr. Ben Udelman, who was kind enough to come in at 3 in the morning, driving from Jersey because he was on call. And he came in and he talked to myself, my girlfriend, and my mom, and just gave us the idea of how the surgery was going to go down. As you said, I needed a valve replacement, so he gave me the option of the tissue valve or the mechanical valve. And for somebody as young as I am at the time, he recommended the mechanical one, even with the need for blood thinners. I figured it was probably the smarter option. And he got me prepped for surgery, and I was in surgery about 5 a.m. maybe, and I think I woke up. I think it was over, I should say, by 2 p.m., give or take.
Wow.
So
So
that was a little over 4 years ago.
thank you so much for taking us through that. I mean, this sounds like really a lot of things, a lot of moving parts all happening at once, and just as life was getting normal again after COVID. Um, I mean, when you were told you were, being brought when Dr. Newman came and it's 5 a.m. in the morning, you just got told your diagnosis, you're going into surgery. Like, what kind of thoughts are going through your head, where right before that?
Strangely enough, for me, like the knowing what it was and knowing that I was going to be going into surgery actually was more calming. The scary part for me was the unknown when I was sitting in the emergency room before the CAT scan, waiting on results, scared that I might something was wrong with my heart. Like I didn't. I looked at my girlfriend half laughing, half in tears, and she said, "But I have so many books left to read." Um, but once he came in, and I mean, you've met, Dr. Udelman. He's a very reassuring individual. He keeps everything as light as he really can, and given
Yeah,
my age and my overall health, otherwise, he said, at the time he told me the survival was probably in the 95% range. But as he likes to say now, the survival is actually between it's 100% or zero. Um, and he said he gave me a fairly optimistic viewpoint, and my mom was there at the time. So once he came in and kind of gave me a rough idea of how things were going to go, I felt fairly calm.
it's great. I mean, yeah, we had Dr. Ullman on the line. I think even our speakers that heard him talk for 20 minutes and kind of get an idea of what he's like. And it's great that you were in his hands. Um, so you kind of spoke about it in your answer. You were given the option of a mechanical valve versus a bioprosthetic, and you went with the mechanical.
Yes.
And as a lot of us know, that comes with blood thinners. You have to watch certain things, do certain things a little differently. Well, what's it like living with a mechanical valve right now in your 30s?
It's a little difficult. I mean, I get my INR checked. If I'm a good boy and I maintain my levels, I can spread out my checks to a monthly. If I am not too good about, if I go out and I have a drink or two and I don't balance it out with a little bit of broccoli or lettuce or something, then and my INR will go a little above or below. Then I'll have to go back in 2 weeks and get it rechecked just as per standard. At some point, I will probably get myself an at-home testing kit, but right now they're, unlike say like a diabetes home test kit, the INR test kits are very difficult to find on the just on the open market, I guess you could call it.
I see. And do you are there certain activities that you don't do anymore, or things you try to avoid?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to lift, so to speak. I mean, I would go back and forth between I'm 3 weeks going to the gym on a regular basis, and then I take off for 4 months, and then I go back and I'm trying it again, like not any individual, but like some young individuals. But I was also I was an avid martial artist. I've been doing it since I was in my teens, and for me, I wasn't overly fond of like progressing, when, getting like new belts and whatnot, like getting up to my black belt. I only achieved, I think it was a purple belt. But what I enjoyed was sparring with my friends, just beating the ever living crap out of each other and going out later and having beers.
A little scrap,
So, huh?
a little scrap.
A little scrap, yeah. I missed the physical, beating that I could take and dish out, and then hang out later. So I can't obviously do that. As Dr. Udelman joked, my professional football aspirations were also in the toilet. So
Well,
I'll have to just be a fan like everybody else.
okay. I mean, I'm sure your girlfriend is happy you're not scrapping anymore either. So
Oh
that's the
yeah,
benefit of it.
but I still, I'm able to walk. I'm an avid walker. I'm lucky enough to live in one of the most beautiful areas of the country, and New York City has a plethora of parks and waterfronts, and as anywhere that you can is really walkable in New York City, and you can find something new each time.
Absolutely, I miss it dearly. I can't wait to be back in New York in 2 months.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I mean, you've spoken a lot about kind of what it was like. And you said a great thing right now where you said, the scary part was the unknown. And once it was kind of broken
Yeah.
down for you and made sense, it was a little less scary. What is one thing you wish more people, including students, healthcare providers, and caregivers, knew about living with aortic disease?
Well, from what I can say, it's a little different for me. We have two groups that we kind of, I guess we have maybe more than two groups. We have like the emergency surgeries, like I had, which maybe caused a little bit more trauma, as Dr. Udelman may have talked about. When not long after my surgery, they did his hospital did a study on PTSD after planned surgeries and emergency surgeries, and the I think the numbers were much higher in emergencies, but I think with the planned surgeries, I really can't speak for that yet. As sometime in my life, I'm sure it'll happen. People who have had surgery, though, they as far as the mental aspect, it's hard. I always tell people the first couple of months are absolute hell. Um, I I often use the statement that I was never more happy to be alive, but every single night I went to bed hoping that I wouldn't wake up and have to deal with it again the next day. So it was a strange kind of back and forth between my mind. And eventually I ended up having a bit of a anxiety issue. Dr. Udelman and I like to joke with each other that at one point, about a month or two after my surgery, I called him at about 2 o'clock in the morning when my heart started like racing, and he eventually did talk me down from it. But I think at that point he realized that I needed to maybe start talking to somebody, and that's kind of when he got me involved in with Aortic Hope. He told me about the meetings and talking to people, and it's really helpful. To hear from people who have undergone what you've undergone and learning that it's some of those things are normal.
Absolutely, and I think once again, like this seems to be a recurring theme throughout our talks with survivors as yourself. We don't spend enough time talking about the mental recovery and the mental first off the mental toll that this takes, and really rehabilitating after that, and knowing that it's not just a physical diagnosis or a physical treatment. Um, and,
I
and you
mean,
touched
I'm
on. Mhm.
I mean, I'm 4 years, almost 4 years out, and I still have issues mentally. I still have nights when I'm wondering if I need to go to the hospital and get scanned. So like it's a balance of regaining life and just trying to get a hold and a feel of your body, and knowing when it's just a random chest pain and when it's something you need to get looked at, and it's a constant balance of that.
Right. And could you would you say your outlook on life has changed at all since your conception?
I mean, I definitely am meeting new people. I never would see myself, unless I suddenly decided I wanted to go back to college and speed through college and go to med school and then start going to medical conferences. I didn't think I would be going to medical conferences now as I do with representing Think Aorta, and trying to, do the outreach work that I do. Um, it's a different feeling, especially talking to new patients. When I only just recently stepped down from my position as one of our support group leaders, and one of the main things that I wanted to do was get everybody new to be able to share their story. So I didn't, I never saw that as some kind of, I don't know if I believe in the term, when people talk about a calling, but it's definitely where it led me to. And I definitely like the work that I do now uh, for Think Aorta and Aortic Hope, when I can, on top of my actual job.
Yeah, man, and the work that you do, I would imagine, is greatly, greatly appreciated by everyone involved. I've had the pleasure of sitting in on some of those sessions that you've moderated, and really the environment you foster, and the safety that the creation of a safe space for patients to talk about. It's phenomenal. It really was. Just as a listener, as a fly on the wall, and I know everyone really appreciates you and misses you moderating them. Um, I know Sunday is the Aortic Bridge Walk in Brooklyn.
That it
Uh,
is.
all right, tell me a little bit more about that, and what are you excited for this year?
Well, as I said, I do enjoy walking in my spare time. New York is such a beautiful city. Um, you know, one thing people, a couple weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, I should say, was 9/11. And one thing people don't realize when they're looking at the island of Manhattan is how condensed it is. Um, so when you're walking across the Brooklyn Bridge, you get closer and closer to Lower Manhattan, and you just see how big and tight all the buildings are together. And one can only imagine, if one was around then. Um, I don't know if certain younger med students were born yet when it happened, but it was such a clumped together space, and the towers just kind of poked through so drastically that to see I mean, it's still a beautiful skyline regardless. Um, I love looking at it and just kind of talking about it with people, even people I've met on the chats. Like last year, I met one of my regular support group meeting attendees. He came in. I think he lives in Connecticut. He came down for it, and he and I sat and we chatted in person, which you can never get the same kind of experience over a computer that you can in person. And we had such a good time, and every time he hopped on the chat after that, I felt like I was talking to like a real friend.
Yeah, I mean the bridge walk is just phenomenal, and I'm so excited to hear the stories about how it goes this year. Really, like you said, you feel like you're talking to a friend that you've had known for years, and just seeing them in person, it's different. So that's going to be very fun, I'd imagine. Um, Tim, we are approaching the end of our interview, and I do want to be respectful of your time, but
Sure.
as you know, the speaker, excuse me, the audience members here, we have a lot of medical students, a lot of aspiring
Yeah.
cardiothoracic surgeons. Do you have any advice for them or things they should keep in mind as we go through our training?
I didn't get cut off. I'm thinking. Just to. Do what our my buddy Adam is doing. Go to these conferences. Hook up to these nonprofits. Like, get involved in the community. Um, Come out and talk to us. Meet patients. You're gonna find stories of. I mean, I think you talked to Tammy a few like last week, I believe it was, and you've talking to Terry. We go to these conferences, and I tell my story. We all tell people our stories. Seasoned doctors, and they look at us like, "Oh my God, how are you guys still alive? How did you survive this?" And it's getting to we're getting medical science is just getting to a point when this is not a death sentence anymore, but we have to catch it. So the important thing is that, talking, even getting your attendings involved, and talking to them, and whoever, whatever other the fancy doctor jargon is for the people above you and supervisors, and getting them involved in this.
Excellently said, Tim. It's been a privilege to really sit and learn and hear from your story and so many others.
And before we
To
go, Adam, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
What do you like about getting involved with Think Aorta and Aortic Hope? How did you get involved with us, and what do you like about it?
Well, I got involved 2 years ago. I was in San Diego, and I saw these lovely shirts you guys were distributing. And then I got to speak with Tammy, and she told me what you were up to. And I had this preceptor who used to say, like, the best lessons come directly from the patient. They don't come from the book. So as much time as you can, spend with the patient. So I kind of just saw it as a great opportunity to, take that advice to heart. And you guys welcomed me with opening arms, and you spoke about matters that were very dear and sensitive, but you felt the importance of sharing your story. I sat in on the support sessions and listened to how important it was that we talk about these things, and listen to like you said, the mental recovery after, and the mental health that far too often gets ignored. So that's really what drew me in. And you guys are a pretty cool group of people. It's fun. It's fun to talk, and I feel like we're not just working together. I feel generally consider all of us to be friends, and I always look forward to the talks. I'm very, very upset that I'm missing the Aorta Bridge Walk this year, but I'm sure I'll catch you again very soon when I'm in New York. And I just look forward to these conferences. I look forward to seeing you guys, and it's a privilege. It's a privilege and a pleasure.
All right. Thank you
So
so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
thank you, Tim. And to all of our medical students on the line, if you are in the New York area, the Northeast, please go to the Bridge Walk this Sunday. Try to get involved. Try to meet everyone, and
It's
we'll
supposed to be
be.
a beautiful day.
Oh yeah, last year it rained. I think this year is going to be sunny to make up for it. It's going to be
Yeah,
exciting, very
absolutely.
exciting. And if you're going to STS, there will be a Think Aorta table there. We will see a lot of familiar faces there. So we hope to see you there in Los Angeles in January. Tim, thank you so much for being on the line with us. Tim just came out of work and he joined us on live. So thank you, Tim.
Adam, buddy, always a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Take care,
Be
everyone.
good.